Hey, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. My name is Salvador Briggman. Thank you for joining me here today. Hope you're having a good week. I hope that you are in store for some learning. You're ready to get cracking when it comes to this project and take away some good key points as it relates to your crowdfunding campaign, which obviously is the focus of this show. And I hope you've taken a second to look at some of the other episodes I got out there because, man, there's just lots of crowdfunding gold to be had. You're a minor, and just the more episodes you listen to, I promise you're going to discover lots of really cool techniques and practices and tips going into your upcoming launch, no matter what type of entrepreneur you are. When I was kind of getting started, I didn't realize this, but there are lots of different types of entrepreneurs. It's almost like animals. Like there are different genres of entrepreneurs where some people are like me. They love marketing. They love sales. They like writing. They like doing all that stuff, and the persuasion element of crowdfunding, right? Other people are more engineers and they like the due diligence aspect, the attention to detail, designing, manufacturing, figuring out how to take an idea from a napkin and then to make it into reality. But they kind of struggle when it comes to selling that idea or marketing it effectively, right? And then you have other people out there that are more of like the designer types, where you're creative, you're artistic, you really enjoy the way that you can cause people to feel emotions based on the way that you frame your work, whether that's with music or artistry or film, etc. You know, today's guest we're going to be talking is focused on film. So there's a lot of different types of entrepreneurs out there, but one of the hallmarks I see with every single crowdfunding campaign that really makes it big is their ability to assemble a team. Their ability to assemble a team typically around like one leader or one founder or the person who's most passionate about seeing the project happen. And that ability to form a team, to have people join you, to have people want to work with you, to be enthusiastic as you are about this project is invaluable, my friends, because business, I used to think it was an individual sport. When I was getting started, I didn't really have a team, right? So I was just like a blogger, and I was writing, and I was doing everything from the website design to the marketing to the creating the products to delivering the services. Like I was doing everything, and it made me not have to depend on anyone, which was great, but it also limited my potential. Business is a team sport. It's not an individual sport. I always thought that it was something like, I don't know, a singles tennis match. Or when I was a lot younger, when I was around 10, I started fencing, and I did fencing for about 10 years. After seeing a Zorro movie, I've always been really gravitated towards individual sports because I could like control the outcome, if that makes sense, of how much effort I put in, how passionate I was. And it always kind of frustrated me being a part of a team because you can't control always all the members of that team. But what I realized as I got older is that the more ability you have to inspire other people on your team, the more ability you have to surround yourself with other individuals who have different skill sets, the more likely you are to be successful with a crowdfunding campaign and with also a product launch. It's a team sport. The ability to create a product is so much greater. Your ability to get something done, to hammer it out, and to create like a next level experience. That only happens when you have a bunch of people who are really smart putting their heads together in order to create something for, thousands of other people. And this creator today is a great example, in my opinion, of someone who is able to assemble a team around his work. And it's kind of rare because he comes from more of a creative mindset, where typically creators are a little bit more in their heads, in the clouds, not really down to the practical nuts and bolts of doing things in business, brass tacks of business, being aware of the finances and logistics and doing things like Patreon and Indiegogo and Kickstarter. And this creator's done all of that. It's had his fingers in a lot of different pies. So pay attention to that, I would say, when you're listening to today's podcast. But also, if you don't want to take the time to go through all of these episodes I have out there on Crowdfunding Demystified, I have a really succinct, actionable blueprint for you called the Kickstarter Launch Formula, which is available on Amazon. And this book will go step by step through how to launch a successful Kickstarter, as well as the proven tricks, strategies, and frameworks that you can use to launch your campaign to be wildly successful. And a lot of these things people don't know. And I'll share a little fact at the end of this interview just to give you an example of that. But I hope you enjoyed today's podcast episode. It's coming up right after this.
Hey man, thanks for having me. Glad to be here. We're very excited about how far we have progressed with the White Dragon, and we still have 32 more days left. So onwards and upwards.
You guys hit your goal pretty early there. It was like the 4th or the 5th day there, it looks like.
Yes. Yeah, we did. So it was, we were very excited about that. And it was just a lot of cool things we got going on, and we have a pretty strong fan base. So just can't wait to see what the future holds.
So when it comes to the project, can you describe for the listeners sort of what this is so they have a sense?
Yeah, basically what we are is we're a production company, and we've teamed up with Jason David Frank, who, if you grew up with Power Rangers, he was the White and Green Ranger. He is, over time, he's still burning bright. His fan base is still really strong, and this series is an original series. It's an original IP, but it if you were a fan of Power Rangers back in the 90s, this is kind of like a grown-up, darker version of it, similar to how, if you guys watch the show The Boys on Amazon Prime, is kind of similar to the Justice League. That's kind of what this is to, I guess, Power Rangers, with elements of maybe X-Men or like kind of a post-apocalyptic world, but it's definitely more of an adult series for all of us who grew up with the nostalgia in the 90s.
And is it going to be a web series or something that people can get like as Blu-ray, or what's the distribution?
Right now, all the distribution is through Kickstarter, so you can get digital downloads, you can get a Blu-ray, different things like that. It will be a web series at some capacity. Right now, we're just waiting to see how much we raise, and then we even have some meetings with some streaming services that might want to take it on. So we'll see. We're just trying to figure out the
logistics
platform. Yeah, the best platform to get it out to as many people as possible, while still prioritizing, of course, all our Kickstarter pledges.
When it comes to the project, what was your role with the campaign?
Well, on the actual project, I'm the director of it, but as far as putting it together, I mean, I'm the one that went in and created the account, created the rewards, and did a lot of the research on Kickstarter. But the team, the actors, and of course Jason, are big components, huge components to promoting it. I mean, it's so much of it is it's them, and it's a team project. So I can't take credit for all of it, that's for sure.
Was this your first campaign that you've done?
So this is our second Kickstarter and our third crowdfunding. We just earlier this year did a crowdfunding for another film on Indiegogo, and set that goal at $25,000 and raised $40,000. So it's been a very good year actually for crowdfunding for us.
With the other Kickstarter campaign, what was that like?
So the other one we did was for the same project, and we did not hit our goal. That project, and really was a blessing in disguise. We set it for $500,000, which is very, very high. And we set it for 30 days, and we didn't do a lot of promotion, and we raised $204,000 in that 30-day span. But just wasn't familiar with Kickstarter, didn't promote it leading up to it. So we learned a lot from it, and basically corrected those mistakes for this new Kickstarter. So now we set our original initial goal is now a stretch goal, and it looks like we're going to make a lot more this time around than we did last time, just because of certain things that we are, we're made aware of because of the previous one.
So first question for you is, as it relates to Indiegogo, how do you compare that to Kickstarter? Do you think it's a smaller community, bigger community? Are you glad you went on Indiegogo? What made you transition to Kickstarter?
I find them very, very similar in the sense of the rewards and stuff. I think that my biggest thing probably is the way that Kickstarter displays its rewards on its page. It doesn't hide them in the sense where when you post a reward, you can post like a name of your reward and what the reward is, and then actually the details of the reward. And whenever you go on Kickstarter, whether it's the full site or it's on a mobile, it displays it completely, which is good because the people who want to come over and grab some of those awesome rewards we've made available, they can see them. And that's important because, out of sight, out of mind. Whereas Indiegogo, if you look at it, I believe on mobile, it hides a lot of that. It'll just say like the top, like just what the tier is called or whatever. And I think that is a disservice to the rewards we offer over there. On the flip side, I find that Indiegogo, they have a service called In Demand, which is very cool, and that only becomes active after you've hit your goal. But that's been kind of nice. As far as there's some things like removing comments, like, you're obviously going to get your share of haters and everything. The bigger your fan base gets, you're going to get haters. And I find that the community on Kickstarter, you can't really like remove people that are saying foul things or, inappropriate things, whereas Indiegogo, you can. So it just depends on, I ultimately, though, would say I think Kickstarter has a bigger reach than Indiegogo, but I could be wrong, though, on that. Like I said, I've only done one successful campaign on each, so this is just what I've learned.
Yeah. One other big major difference, I think, is with Indiegogo, you can install Facebook Pixel, if I'm not mistaken, where I don't believe you can do that on Kickstarter as easily. So it's a little bit different. You can do some more targeted Facebook marketing. With the first project, you mentioned that being a blessing in disguise. What's one or two things you learned from that first project after unsuccessful hitting your goal? But you actually, you raised a lot of money, honestly.
Yeah, they were surprised, which was good. It showed that the fan base was there. A few things that I learned is, one, to promote your project leading up to it. We didn't do that. We just threw it out there, and people were excited about it, obviously, but I think if we had done a much longer lead in, it would have done a lot better. We have a pretty strong fan base. We have 2.3 million subscribers on YouTube and 500,000 on Facebook. And Jason David Frank has, I think, 1 million on Facebook and 500,000 on Instagram. So we went in pretty strong, but we didn't promote it previous to the launch. And then also setting your goal a little lower, because so on the Indiegogo one, we set the reward very low. The project's much smaller. So like it was, the goal was 25 grand, which isn't that much. But since we were really close, like on the last couple days, we were very, very close to making our goal. People really jumped in and were really excited. And then we hit 40 because there was that, you're on that cusp of making it. Whereas with the previous one that failed, we set it so high that on the last week, no one really contributed because they could see that it wasn't going to make it. So it seemed like, no use. So with this one, people really jumped on because they could feel the goal coming. So I would tell people to make your goal lower than what you think or need, because you'll probably go past it.
Mm-hmm. And as it relates to your massive following on Facebook and YouTube, looks like you have about 500,000 people here on Facebook. What were you doing then the second time around to warm these people up? Were you driving them to an email list? Were you just telling them that something's coming and you should expect it? What were you doing to kind of warm those people up?
Just posting concept art from the project and letting them know. Doing some lives. Just a constant barrage of information about the Kickstarter coming. The social media has really changed in the last couple of years, and it's not as I want to say productive as it used to be, or allowing you to be as productive, because originally, when you would post something to your social media, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook, it would reach all your fans. It doesn't now. Like on Instagram and Facebook, they want you to pay to reach all your fans, which is really, I think, a lot of BS. But because they're your fans, why are they limiting your own fan base? But
Yeah.
I guess it's because they need more money, which is kind of silly. But because Facebook is already like, a multi-billion-dollar company. But so you got to really push it, because we on our previous one, we posted all the time. And then people would come back to our previous postings and be like, hey guys, why didn't you promote this? I never even heard of this. And we'd be like, we promoted that all the time. So you really, from what I've learned and when I've been talking with other people that have pretty big social media following, you really only have access to about 5% of your social media, which is very disheartening. But 5% of, 2.3 million people is still a decent amount. But also in the rule of sales, someone's not going to act on it until they hear it for almost 7 times. So you got to really put it out there, but also in a way that you're not just begging for sales. I mean, you're working on a project because now we have to make this film, and it's, as filmmakers and artists, it's a joy and it's wonderful to do that. We don't take any pay or anything like that. All the money goes into the rewards and it goes into the film. So it's really kind of cool because it's brought in a lot of our fans closer to us, because we're really working on something together. So that kind of like outreach, teamwork, and camaraderie that you share with your fan base is more evident now than ever, which I think that connection is very important in today's world.
Did you do anything like any kind of advertisements on YouTube? Or I know you have your YouTube channel there. I was wondering if you did anything like advertising to your own followers or anything like that.
I'm not even sure. Are you able to advertise on YouTube?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't even know how to do that. I just usually just post things, and a lot of our videos get, anywhere between 50,000 to a couple million. How do you do advertising on YouTube?
You'd have to create an advertising account, and then you can create an audience that's basically of your subscribers, or if they're around their viewers, like specific video and such. So yeah, that's one thing you can do. But I've been noticing it's a different game, because even though if you have a bunch of followers on YouTube, like you said, you only hit a portion of them. That's one way you can really make sure you're hyper targeting, getting the most ROI for your money, right? Versus trying to get someone who's a stranger to be aware of what it is you're doing. That's a little bit of a harder sell. So as you were talking about doing this launch, so one thing you realized was the pre-launch, right? The importance of that, and really kind of like warming people up. What are your thoughts on the other components that you had, like the video and the rewards and stuff? Did you expand on them at all, or do you change them up at all?
We changed the rewards a little bit. We listened to the fans and what their critiques were. We offered rewards that were lower tiers. Some things I didn't think people would be interested in, they were interested in. Offering a Blu-ray DVD is a big component. What's funny is that in today's world where everything is switching over to, digital downloads and streaming, I didn't think DVD was that big a deal, but it is. It's people really want that Blu-ray and DVD. So we added that component on there, and created more digital stuff on lower tiers. I just didn't think people would really want those, but you live and learn, and that's why I said the first failed Kickstarter was a blessing, and we implemented all those things on the new one.
Yeah, it's almost like a organic kind of growing community where you find out what they like and what they don't like, what rewards they're gravitated to and they don't, and you kind of like mold your campaign a little bit more to that, like as it goes, it seems.
Yep.
Now that you've surpassed your goal and you're sort of like here, you have about 32 days to go. What's your strategy? Are you reaching out to any like media publications? Are you doing anything like email newsletters? Or I'm just kind of curious, now that you're in the trenches, like where your thoughts go?
We've had websites do articles on us, and they do all right. Conversion is a tricky thing, and there's always brand awareness and brand conversion, and they're two very, very different. I find that just posting to our YouTube channel awesome content about the project and having a very clear message that we need them to make this film, and the more that we raise, the better the film will be. I find that talking to them has been good. That's something I've learned. That's something I never really did before. I didn't put myself too much in front of the camera in terms of like a social media influencer, which, because I'm more of a filmmaker who just has a large, following. But talking with the fans, which has been great. Like I said, it's been really a blessing just to get to know them more. I just didn't think that people cared to hear from me. I just didn't think my importance was that, but people really enjoy it, and that's really cool. Very humbled by that. So we just post a lot of cool content, and then talk about, what we want to do and show them how hard we're working and be very transparent about the project, So I think honesty and sincerity it goes a long way.
Yeah, I think so too. When it comes to these videos that you're posting, do you ever do anything like a YouTube live or Instagram live to engage with backers?
Yeah, that's I do YouTube live quite a bit, and that's done really well. That's been very, very cool. And then we created our own Legend of the White Dragon Instagram, which is almost about 10,000 followers now. We're building that up, and we've gone live on there and interacted with fans. And then, like I said, Jason, our star, he's been really big on going live and promoting so hard on his social media, which has done great. He's done super well as far as, he has a great connection with his fans. He's a really personable guy. I've met a lot of celebrities, and he really puts his fans first, not in a phony way that some celebrities do, but like in a genuine way. And it's very obvious when you see him, when he does like appearances at like conventions and stuff, he'll outshine, everyone. So his connection to his fans has really been instrumental on this project.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's pretty inspirational too. As it relates to the campaign, you're doing a lot of stuff here. Like you're pulling together the entire project. You're doing all of the management and the marketing. What part are you most passionate about? Like, what is the part for you, I guess, that is the most rewarding when it comes to this process?
Creating art. First and foremost, I'm an artist, and I like to create art. Kickstarter is amazing because, and Indiegogo, all these crowdfunding is amazing because they allow people who love your art to come together and help you make more of it. I always say that, when you get money from wherever source you get your money from, like if you're working a job, whether you're working on a film project, or you're working at Kickstarter, or you're working at Starbucks, or wherever you're working, I'd always want to put that money into an art project. Some people work a 9-to-5 job and they remodel their kitchen. If I worked a 9-to-5 job, I'd want to make films. And when I did work a 9-to-5 job, I made films, and that's what led me to here, So it's always about, let's create art, because that'll live forever, and that belongs to everyone, and it's going to mean so much to everyone,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when you're also creating art, it's almost like a socially acceptable way to express emotion and to start conversations that are sometimes a little bit more difficult. Even if it's something that's, cool, like action movie. You just like, it's so rare you feel that level of emotion when you're watching a film in normal everyday life, right? So It kind of allows you to feel all of these different things that you don't normally feel in just like your normal 9-to-5 job.
Right. Yeah, it's great. It's great to be able to tell those stories and affect people, and really see the enjoyment in people when you meet them. And it's so much more enriching to me than money is, as like just as what it is.
The fruits of your labor. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I always say, like, because I've on a Superpower Beatdown series on YouTube, we've done 26 episodes and directed feature film and worked with Hasbro and Saban and Lionsgate, and it's like, would you give all that away to have like a giant mansion of a house? And I wouldn't. I'm more proud of the art that I've created.
Now, how does this campaign sort of fit in with what you do on Patreon? Because that's something we didn't really talk a bit about, but it looks like you do a Patreon page. How does that fit in?
So Patreon is something we started about 6 months ago, and it's done very well. We have over 400 patrons, and they come on and they allow us to keep doing the Beatdown series. We used to, so our the beatdown series we do on YouTube has always been self-funded. YouTube used to pay more, which helped us self-fund that. It was never a profitable thing, but it wasn't as much of a financial loss as it is now. That's why Patreon's come in, and it's helped out a little bit. It's helping us get back on track, or getting Beatdown back on its feet. So, but it's been good. I know some people recommend not to have a Patreon and a Kickstarter, but like I said, we don't make any money off this stuff, and I just feel blessed to be in a situation to be able to make, really cool videos and really cool art that, all the fans really enjoy and love. And I'm a fan too. So it's like, I make it because I want to see it. And I know a lot of fans want to see it. So it's just, I like working, and I like, creating cool stuff,
Yeah.
and
for
the
those
fans enjoy it.
For those that aren't familiar, Patreon is basically a subscription-based crowdfunding model. So on Kickstarter, you're doing one big, massive project. On Patreon, you're supporting someone's work over time, and it's a subscription basis, on a monthly basis. So it's a little bit more sustainable, but I would say in my experience, it's also harder to get to those larger numbers. And,
Yes.
Donations tend to be a little bit lower than they would be doing like a Kickstarter campaign.
Correct.
Just kind of watching and learning a little bit about your history, one of the things that kind of just blows me away is there are so many creative people in LA, in the United States and around the world who can make really great art and are obsessive about art the way you are, but they aren't able to monetize it or really make it commercial or to bring it into the real world. Where do you think you differ? Like, why do you think that is, that there are so many people that are struggling and not able to do what it is you're doing when it comes to like the commercial side of things?
Yeah, I was just telling, I was just talking with someone about this. How it's very hard to, I guess, financially generate enough revenue to where you can survive on your own and still keep making this stuff. That was never the goal, though. It's really hard to talk about that, only because when we first started doing these, it was just, let's make cool art and put it online. Now, we started making films really before YouTube came around. So
that's a long time ago. Yeah.
It is a long time ago. Yeah. And back in 2004, 2006, or whenever that was. And so when YouTube came around, we were like, oh, cool. Because before you had to buy all this bandwidth to just post the video online, and it was very expensive and no one saw it. And then YouTube came around, and we started posting videos on there, and it started to get like this really big following. And at the same time, my career was progressing in Hollywood, as far as, like I said, I've directed some national commercials, and I've done some stunt work, motion capture for Spider-Man and the video games and different things like that. So it was kind of like dual-sided, and but it just really took off. It really took off online, and like I said, just the goal was to always just make cool content, and like really, put all your, all the best qualities and everything, and just make it the best it can be. And it exploded. It took off. I didn't set out with the mindset of, hey, we need to get a lot of followers, or hey, we need to make a lot of money. That was never a thought. The thought was, hey, how do we make the best project possible and get it out to as many people as possible so they can enjoy it?
It seems like you're pretty good at networking, though. I mean, you're meeting a bunch of these celebrities and you're pulling them together into projects. Is that almost like a strategy for you, as a way you can get your art seen by more people?
Yes and no. I mean, I've had, a big component to social media is she's kind of, I don't want to call her an assistant, because she's more than that, because she's been very beneficial, and she doesn't work for me, but Nicole Klepper, she's always been good on jumping on the social media and creating it right at the beginning. I am not really a social media person, and I don't set out after to grab celebrities. A lot of them have actually come to me in terms of like reaching out, being like, hey man, I really like your stuff. It's really impressive. I'd like to, be a part of it and create something cool. Because a lot of these celebrities and other artists they like the same thing. They want to create cool art. They go into it with the same mindset. So it's been like a great pool of networking that's been balanced on both sides. So I just go back to just put out the best project and quality out there, and people will come. If you build it, people will come.
Yeah, definitely. Very well said. So you have 32 more days to go here. Do you have any announcements that you're going to make that people should be aware of? Any stretch goals or any things that they should check out on your page?
The stretch goals, the next one is 250,000, and that's going to allow us to make the series bigger and better. Obviously, 500,000, which will be pretty hard to get to. That allows us to make kind of a small feature film, which would be incredible. And as far as the announcements, we're going to talk more about different character reveals, who the villain is of the film, and just probably more concept art as we go along.
Okay, and for those who want to check it out, it's The White Dragon, if you put that on Kickstarter. My final question for you here is, for someone else out there who, sees your success and they think that just blows their mind, right? Because you launched your campaign, it did really well almost instantly. You're networking with famous celebrities, you're pulling them into projects. It can almost seem a little bit untouchable, not real. What advice would you give to someone who's just getting started? And that could be like a word of encouragement. That could be a final tip as it relates to crowdfunding. It could be something you've learned from your career, as an artist. Would love to end there.
Well, the main thing is, I guess it'd be kind of getting started into filmmaking, because that was my entry point. And with film, it's a team effort, so the sum is greater than the parts. And I always recommend, finding people that are as passionate about about the project as you are. So just find your team, and that's what we did, working with people that are going to give you 110% and are as passionate about the art as you are is going to go a lot further than you just paying someone. It's hard to find, but you'd be surprised there's more out there than you think. Now, I had the benefit of growing up out here in Los Angeles and Hollywood, so obviously there's probably a lot more here than there is, like let's say in Oklahoma or Ohio, but it doesn't mean they're not out there. And because of social media reach, there's creative people everywhere. They flock here, but don't doubt how many creative people are in Oklahoma and Ohio. So find those people, make something cool, put it online, and if it's really good, eyes will come to it. And then when those eyes come to it, have a Kickstarter crowdfunding ready. People can tell if you're talented and if you're genuine in your art and your message.
Well said.
So
yeah, definitely well said. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on the show. Look forward to seeing your progress over the next couple of days, and we'll have to have you back.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Sometimes when I'm doing these shows, we have really good conversations before we go live and after we go live. And it's hilarious because I'm like, I wish I captured that. I wish I captured that for you guys. So I just want to share one quick thing that the guest today was saying, which was I was asking him a little bit after the show if he had an email list. And that was actually something that he does not have, despite having, millions of followers. And that's obviously, I'm not trying to, put him down or anything. I'm just trying to draw your attention to this so that you can be aware of the importance of having assets like this. And how do you have an email list? Rather than being beholden to all of these other platforms, these social media sites, YouTube, etc., you then have direct access to your entire fan base. It is so powerful. It's like if your whole business goes up in flames, your website dies, you don't have access to your social media accounts, you're locked out for whatever reason, you still are always going to have your email list. You're always going to be able to contact your fan base. There's nothing that's stopping you from using that to launch new products or to come out with new ideas or to draw people's attention to something new that you're doing. It's a very powerful tool. So I was kind of talking with him about his need. He should really create an email list and kind of how to do that. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast interview. There's a lot of stuff that goes into these campaigns. And as you can tell, they're kind of different depending on the category. Like a film campaign oftentimes is a little bit different than a board game, which is different than a technology gadget or a gizmo. And the stuff you're going to focus on, the marketing strategy you have, the ad buys that you make, the money you put into the project is always going to be slightly different, because movies are sold very differently than selling like a household appliance, right? Just things are sold differently because the people who buy them are on different platforms. So for this guest, maybe building up a big YouTube channel was really great for him because his work is in video and film, but that's not necessary for every category that's out there. And that's something to be aware of. That's really a case-by-case basis. So if you've been wondering kind of for your specific category or your project, what's going to work well for you, then you can book a one-on-one coaching call with me and we can dive into that exactly. This is an hour-long intensive coaching call that you can book from. We can do it on your computer. We can do it via Skype. We can do it on the phone. It really doesn't matter where in the world you are. And it can kind of square away, I think, a lot of the questions that you might have as it relates to crowdfunding, as well as make sure that this campaign is set up for success. You can also ask my recommendations on service providers. If you want me to get involved in your project in some way, we can also talk about that on the call. But this is really kind of like meant to jumpstart that whole process of you going to be launching this campaign. So I urge you to go and check this out if you are at all interested in that and getting direct contact with me. That link is crowdcrux.com/coaching. That is crowdcrux.com/coaching, crowdcrux.com/coaching. Hope that is helpful for you. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman, and I appreciate any ratings and reviews that you leave me on iTunes. Thank you so much for listening to this show, and I will see you next time.